Guys, it is Andy, aka Elegy, aka Loggy. It is currently December 15th as of the day I'm recording this, which means for the first time I'm actually able to do my favorite Magic cards of the year within the year. I didn't have to wait until January of the next year. I got it done beforehand this year, and I'm so damn proud of myself.
Also a little proud of hitting 500 subscribers. Thank you to y'all if y'all did that. If you didn't and you like what you're seeing, be sure to subscribe, because 500 is just a beginning, boys. Yeah.
At the end of every year, I've been doing a top 10 or 20 or so of my favorite Magic cards released every year. And this is potentially the last year I'm going to be doing it. I don't know if I like the direction Magic seems to be going right now, with approximately 1,000 releases every day. Not to mention all the Universes Beyond stuff is coming to standard for God knows what reason. So I'm definitely feeling the burnout of Magic, but I still enjoy it. I still play like standard on Magic Arena and stuff, so I definitely wanted to make this video going over my top 20 cards. I actually have some honorable mentions this time. So to begin the honorable mentions, I have Pillage the Bog. I always feel pretty guilty about playing it. It just feels like a demonic tutor. Well, I guess I just take whatever I need and win the game. It's very easy to make into demonic tutor. Perhaps even easier because you can just plot it for one additional mana, and then it's like, yeah, dog. Kind of low-hanging fruit there. Bonnie Paul is another one I kind of liked when Thunder Junction came out. Haven't really played with it much since, so it's only on the honorable mentions, but it was fun, I guess. Mistbreath Elder and Wallop, two slots from the Frog's shell that emerged from Bloomburrow. I didn't feel like they deserve a spot on their own, but I definitely want an honorable mention for them because there's such clutch cards in the Frogs deck, which I've been having a lot of fun with if you haven't been able to tell. Mistbreath, such a clean engine. Wallop, such a crazy removal spell. Very efficient. Yeah, I just love those cards, but like I said, didn't quite make the list, but now we will move on to the list properly with number 20, and I wrote Simic Kellen. I don't know the name of the card, but it's this. I'll put a picture up on screen right now. I have to look up the name of the card. Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy, and what's the other side? Tail the Suspect is the adventure. Yeah, I enjoyed playing Simic Ramp all year. I've completely accepted it that I'm just now a dirty Simic player. Like that is my identity. Yeah, I just like big Simic ramping. You can tail the suspect for 2 mana. Play an additional land this turn. You don't draw a card, but you can investigate, which is very nice because if you do that on 2, then on turn 3 you can play your 4th land, play the Kellen, and then next turn attack with it, get its attack trigger. You can pop your clue token that you made and draw a card right away. You don't need to pay 2 mana to activate the clue naturally. You get a discount. Pretty cool synergy. And of course, if your opponent has any artifacts, you can smash those as well. Very good card. I don't like playing it in multiples though, so it's usually just a fun of one of. When Merge of Karlov Manor came out, I wasn't feeling the set at all, like any cards in it, but this is one I gravitated towards and got me to kind of respect the set a little bit, and that's always a positive. So, yep, Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy for number 20. Number 19, we got another card from Merge of Karlov Manor, and that is Deduce. We actually have Think Twice in Standard right now, which is kind of a little better, a little worse than this, but this is a new card and one that I put on the list before realizing that Think Twice would be in Foundations, so and Deduce just feels great. One card that draws 2, it has to be spread out, but it feels so undercosted, even though it really isn't. Like when you really think about it, you're still paying 4 mana to draw 2 cards, which is perfectly on rate, but you can spread it over the course of a few turns, and you can start that on turn 2 if you don't have anything else to do. Like, it's so powerful of a card, like deceptively powerful, using your mana efficiently. It's very, very solid. I kind of hate the card when played against me, because it's like, oh man, especially in like just brain dead Azorius control, like you as soon as they hit that first deduce, it's like, alright, this slippery slope's not gonna end in my favor. So yeah, but I do like playing the card, so I had to include it on here. Coming in at number 18, I have Avon Interrupter from Outlaws. I think this is the only white card on the list. It looks like it is. Nice flash tempo play from mono white. It worked really. I made an Azorius tempo deck. I made a Simic tempo deck. Even interruptor full playset of it in all those versions, and it was fun. It did well. Like, you can flash it in, and just as a nice 2/2 attacker. But most of the time you are going to be countering something, which just feels particularly amazing, because, you know, if you're playing Simic or something, you don't have access to traditional counter magic, so, not Simic, Selesnya, I'm sorry. So when an opponent plays a big bomb and expects it to resolve, and then you play something like Aven Interrupter and it just completely catches them off guard, it's nice. It's a nice option. And now there's plenty of flash and tempo-y heavy decks in Standard now, so this is probably going to... I'm either probably going to enjoy it more or hate it even more, but I don't really see anybody else play it. So I doubt I'll grow to hate it more, so it's probably a good call to be on this list. Coming in at number 17, I have Archdruid's Charm. Boy, oh boy. I just recently played with this in Pioneer. They finally added Pioneer Masters, is that right? The name of the set, I can't remember it, but they wanted to include every Pioneer card that wasn't on Arena onto Arena, like Hidden Strings, like a few other cards that weren't in Pioneer already. But Hidden Strings was the main one, so I could finally test out my Lotus Field decks, and Archdruid's Charm is in that deck, and it's a very good card. But I knew that even before just playing that deck earlier this week. I was having a lot of fun with it in Standard, in Mono Green, and also in, like, Naya. I often... not Cascade, what's the keyword? Discovered it with the 4-drop Geological Appraiser. Even if you don't have perfect mana for it, because it automatically casts it, so you don't need to worry about the 3 green pips. It's a nice synergy, but it's a strong card, like, by its own, so don't get it twisted. You don't need to discover into it in order to get value out of it. Like, it's strong on its own, so would definitely recommend. I need to play it in Standard more, because I'm playing a lot of Mono Green now that a lot of Wilds are back, so I don't know why I haven't been playing with it. I'll have to fix that. Alright, coming in at number 16, I have Colossal Rattleworm. A bit ago when I mentioned the Selesnya flash decks and the Simic flash decks, this is a heavy hitter in there. Just coming down on 4, like, especially if you have a cavern and you know it's going to resolve. That's the good stuff. Then even if they kill it, you can ramp later with it. Like, it's such a good card. Only problem is sometimes you don't draw your deserts, and in that case it's not terrible, but it's not what you want to be doing. So that's my only complaint about it. You really need to be in a dedicated desert deck to do what you want to do with Rattleworm, and that can hinder your ability to play a more tempo-based, like, flash deck. So kind of at odds with itself, but I find it's still a solid card. Coming in at number 14, I have Sharpy Rookie. Card that grows throughout the game with 1/1 counters, and you know me, I love my Kodama the West Tree, Pelt Collector, Experiment 1, Quirigan Beast Caller, I think is the name. All those dorky little guys that grow throughout the game and get counters and then synergize with your Kodama and then ramp you more, then you can cast your bigger... I love that shit. It's bad. It's that archetype is not a good archetype, because you need your little guys before you hit your Kodama, and then you ramp a bunch, and then most of your deck is little guys, so your ramping doesn't do anything. Like, it's so at odds with itself, but I love the deck. I've always loved that archetype, and Sharpy Rookie is one of the best versions of this that I've seen, because it gives you clue tokens, so even if you do, like, get your board wiped or whatever, you should have gotten many clue tokens out of it, so you're able to kind of refuel after you get blown out like that. But yeah, Sharpy Rookie definitely up there. I think I forgot number 15, or maybe I said this was number 15. Sharpy Rookie was 14. I think I totally skipped over 15. 15 is Flourishing Bloomkin. But yeah, another 2-drop mono green creature from Murders, and it's another banger. Gets way bigger than Sharpy Rookie, faster anyway. All you gotta do is play Forest, and it gets huge. With 3 lands out, it is no longer affected by cut down. But that's really all it is. It's a vanilla, French vanilla, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have an ability, really, just an ability that affects its power and toughness. I guess you can disguise it and turn it face up to ramp a little, but that's not what you want to be doing in an aggressive mono green deck. So I prefer Sharpy Rookie to Bloomin, but Bloomin is such a cool design. I like how it pays you off for having a bunch of forests, because I like my mono green myself. So had to give the boy a shout out, but it's not the greatest card. But I am playing with it and enjoying it. Alright, so now we move on to number 13, and I have Vin Hydra. Speaking of Sharpy Rookie and getting a bunch of counters to help your Kodama, this thing is kind of the answer to the problem I mentioned with that Kodama deck, which is you need little guys to help ramp you with your Kodama, but then since all you have are little guys, what are you ramping into? This is what you're ramping into. A hasty, tramply, vigilant monster that ramps you when it dies. That is a crazy Magic card, and I knew it would be from the moment I saw it. I just, it's funny, because, like, this card on paper is so broken, but, like, it doesn't amount to anything, because, like, everything just gets exiled. So you never get the death trigger. The hasty damage never amounts to anything, because it just 2 mana, whoops, dumb little white card, not on my watch or whatever. There's all the minus effects that reduce its power, so you don't get treasure tokens when it dies. And it's not to mention Sunfall is still in standard, so like it's got its problems, but overall it's a very strong card and a card I enjoy a lot. Like I've been playing even after Kodama rotated out, so crazy Magic card. At number 12, I have Ballast Worm from Duskmourn. Just an innocuous, can't be countered, tramply, recursive, hasty beater that kind of punishes the right decks. That's it. There's nothing more to say about it. It's just a fair Magic card. It's like a sideways take on Ceratops, shifting Ceratops. This one's always 5 mana, but it always has haste, always has trample, and it's recursive. Like, it's just such a good card. And like I said, punishes the right decks that want to take control of the game. I haven't encountered many opponents playing it, and I don't know why, because like you don't always draw your Cavern of Souls, guys, so you could definitely use some can't be countered spells naturally. So definitely consider Ballast Worm if you play mono green and you're struggling for some more controlling matchups. Number 11, we get another banger from Duskmourn, and this is Overlord of the Boiler Bilges, otherwise known as Boiler Bagels. What's not to love about Baby Inferno Titan, am I right? The whole cycle of Overlords is overperformed from what I was expecting of it. I thought, oh, this dumb little cycle wants to be the Titans so bad, but nah, they are pretty great. This guy's an absolute house in like Avatar-based decks. Like it's tearing up Pioneer, not the Bring Delight, but Enigmatic Incarnation Fires, I think, played it. Because you can play them for their enchantment side, and they'll still exist on the battlefield as like their 6 mana enchantment half, even though you only paid 4 mana for it, so you can snag a 7-drop with your Boiler Bilges. And yeah, it's the Overlords probably don't need any hype, but like I was not expecting to enjoy them as much as I am, and yeah, Boiler Bagels here is putting in work for me, so shout outs. Anyway, that's the first half. As we move on to number 10, we have Inkeeper's Talent. Kind of a divisive card because there's a one-shot kill with it in Standard right now, but now with Foundation there's so many instant kills, so I think this one is kind of negligible now, because it needs considerably more setup than I think a lot of the other 2-card combos now. But even still, on its own, it's such a fair Magic card. If you take Roska out of the picture, all it does is buff your creatures and give them a little more protection. Like by itself, it's completely fair. But with the option to, of course, abuse that and do an instant game over combo. So I like Magic cards like that. Last year I talked about Up the Beanstalk. I used it fairly in mono green decks, just trying to outgrind like control players that just wanted to counter my 5-drops, and eventually I would acquire more card advantage than them because I kept drawing off of my Up the Beanstalk even if they countered my spells. So we all know what happened with Up the Beanstalk. It's now no longer used fairly. That's kind of how I feel about Inkeeper's Talent now. It has unfair applications that make it a powerhouse in Standard, but it's also standalone a very good Magic card, and that's why I like it so much. Absolute menace with Deep Cavern Bat, though, bro. Don't get me started on that shit. Right, at number 9, I have the first frog of the list, maybe the last. Hard to say, but at number 9, I have Clifftop Lookout. The 3-mana replacement to Topiary Stomper, bro. Boy wants to be Stomper so bad. Why didn't they reprint Topiary Stomper into Standard in Foundations? Like, it's so... Ugh. But nah, I'm glad we got Clifftop Lookout. It's a very solid piece in the Frogs deck. And even outside of Frogs deck, like in traditional ramp decks, it's good because it doesn't... Unlike Stomper, which only got you basic lands, though it allowed you to get whatever you needed, this can get non-basic lands. So there's a bit of give and take there. I do think Stomper is the better card, of course, because you have more control, but there is something to be said about being able to hit non-basic lands. So, like you Clifftop Lookout into a Survey land or whatever, that's a good feeling. So, I really don't have much to say about Clifftop Lookout. It's not really a win condition, though I think I have killed multiple people with attacking with my 3-mana 1/2s. Oh no, I think I buffed it with Inkeeper's Talent, actually. That's how I got it done. So yeah, there's story time for you. Anyway, at number 8, I have Hostile Investigator. From Outlaws, but they called the set something different because it's a subset within Outlaws. What's the name? The Big Score, I think? Yeah. When this dropped, I pretty much scrapped Shouldered, because, like, this is... Like, Shouldered will win you the game, yeah, but it needs to stick around to do that. Hostile Investigator comes down and just wreaks havoc, because, like, it's like a 3-for-1. You play it as a permanent. If your opponent wants to kill it, they have to 1-for-1. But at the same time, when it comes down, they have to discard, so that's a 2-for-1, and you get a clue token when they discard, so, like, dog. Black does not need this many 3-for-1s. Holy mackerel. So, if you're looking for a 4-drop slot in your black deck, and you don't want to rely on your Shouldered surviving, just play some Hostile Investigators. They'll get the job done, bro. Like I think a lot of people only play it in, like, the black discard decks, but you do not need to only play it there. Like, it's such a strong Magic card. Like, worthy to replace Shouldered, in my opinion. Just a crazy Magic card. At number 7, I have a sideboard piece that I've actually been playing a lot in my main decks, just because it's so... There's such little opportunity cost. That is Paw Patch Formation. There's a lot of enchantments in Standard, so being able to, at instant speed, just pop one of them, that's great. And aside from that, flyers are also extremely prevalent ever since Foundations came out. Everyone wants to try their new 1-2 card combos with their flyers, their Archfiends, their Bloodthirsty Conquerors, whatever. Paw Patch takes care of that. And if neither of those are applicable for you, which in that case you're doing pretty well for yourself, but if that is the case, you can always just cycle it and get a food token while you're at it. So kind of a mistake of a Magic card, and I said that way back when this card came out, and I still feel like they overtuned this a little bit, because it feels a little strong for an uncommon. It's definitely geared to be like a sideboard card, but like it has so much versatility, you can main deck it, and I don't understand why people don't. It's a house, bro. Anyway, at number 6, I have another banger from the Big Score, and that is Vaultborn Tyrant, bro. This is what made me want to try Simic Ramp way back when. Not Bonnie Paul, not Doppelgang, none of that. This is why I wanted to ramp. Because I wanted to gain life and draw cards. Isn't that what we all want to do in Magic? Getting multiple Vaultborn Tyrants down. One of them dies, you get the artifact version, then draw about 6 cards or whatever. Ridiculous, dog. I think it's actually a must ability, like not a may ability, so you're in danger of decking yourself out if you got multiple late game creatures keep entering the battlefield. But if that's your biggest problem, then I think you're doing something right, and Vaultborn Tyrant definitely is doing many things right. So I haven't been including Vaultborn Tyrant in a lot of decks because I've shifted towards other styles and finishers that I overlooked, but yeah, I cannot overstate how clutch Vaultborn Tyrant is. And now we move on to the top 5, ladies and gentlemen. Without any further delaying, let's get on to number 5, which is a newcomer to the list. When this card came out, and for like 2 months afterwards, I had no desire to look at it. I thought other options were better and just didn't even think twice about looking at it. But then I started playing these other archetypes and other shells and experimenting. Now this card is among the top 5 favorites of the set, and that is Season of Gathering. The season cycle from Bloomburrow is one I completely overlooked. I was like, alright, we're making aggressive creature decks. We're not playing around with these 6 mana sorceries with a bunch of weird modes that might not even do anything. We're just going all aggro creatures and slamming in. Then I took a step back. I looked at the meta more broadly, and I was like, wait a minute. What is this card? Actually, I faced it. Someone else actually played it against me. I'd never read the card outside of pre-release season or whatever. I hadn't read it since. I hadn't seen it since nobody played it. But then one day someone played it against me and drew 5 cards, and I was like, that exact expression. And I was like, yep, that's going into my ramp decks. And it did. And it's weird because you need to have things in play to get what you want out of this. You need creatures in play to give them power to draw cards. And if you're just constantly getting board wiped and countered and are fighting a control opponent, it's not the best card. Maybe that's why I overlooked it initially, and that is definitely a solid flaw with it. But in the past 3 weeks, I've been playing with this card for 3 weeks, and it's just blown me away at how much of a turnaround it is. Because even if you have just a Llanowar Elves and you play a 6 mana Season of Gathering and you use 2 paws to put 2 counters on it, and then you use 3 paws to draw cards equal to the highest power among creatures you control, which would be 3, since your Llanowar Elves has 2+1/+1 counters on it. So 6 mana draw 3 is not great, but that's the floor of the card. I don't think you need me to tell you how ridiculous it gets if you have a big board, in which case this is win more. But if you're ever in a scenario where you have a good board but you're in danger of losing the game to a sweeper, then this is nice insurance. I completely overlooked the 2-paw mode, which just blows away artifacts and enchantments. That's a very good option, low-key. I usually play in ramp heavy decks, so I'm playing up to Beanstalks and Leyline Bindings and stuff, so I never want to wipe away all the enchantments with it. But if a opponent's playing artifacts in December 2024, good luck, dog. 6 mana, blow that shit away. Buff my board at the same time, or draw cards, whatever. Yeah, Season of Gathering, one I definitely overlooked when Bloomburrow came out, and like I said, now it's just it's my favorite. Not my favorite card from Bloomburrow, but definitely one I overlooked and one I have to regard among the top 5 cards of this year. And at number 4, I have another one that I overlooked or didn't get into when it dropped. This is, of course, Doppelgang. I was not about to try to spend 11 mana to try to make 9 tokens when my opponent can spend 2 mana and just annihilate me. just as a counterspell. That was my initial reaction to the card. I'm not interested in the next spell like that, where I need permanence and I need to have it resolve. Yeah, no thanks. That was my initial response, and I don't think I was incorrect in that regard, but over time I had to try the card out, and once I did, I was like, why did I ever not try this? Dog, yes, sometimes you don't have a board to copy, sometimes it will get countered, but in the games where it does something for you, it's so powerful. Like I said, you pay 11 mana and just make 9 permanents, and if they're all the deserts that ping your opponent, that's over half their life right there. Not to mention other balmy stuff you can copy. And Doppelgang is, I don't know how, because I've known deep down, I've always accepted myself to be a Simic player, even though I never admitted it. So, I should have realized how much I would have liked Doppelgang, but the spike in me was just no, we're not doing this. You're not going to rely on having a board. You're not going to rely on having it not get countered. But then I did it, and I have not looked back since. This is a messed up Magic card. But now, we are among the top 3. Number 3 is a mono blue card. I'll give you one moment to guess what it is. Did you guess 3 steps ahead? Because that's the answer. 3 steps ahead is probably my favorite counterspell ever printed. Like, I admittedly never played with, like, Force of Will. I guess I play with Mana Drain, but that's not a fair Magic card. Counterspell is mid. Negate is reliable. But, like, this, 3 steps ahead is something else. It can just be a cancel 3-mana counterspell. But it can also be a 3-mana draw 2, then discard 1. Or a 4-mana copy one of your guys. Or any combination of those. So, like, if you have a lot of mana, like in a Simic Ramp deck, for example, you're doing yourself so much disservice by not allowing yourself to have the versatility of a card like 3 steps ahead. Such a strong Magic card. And, like, even if your opponent has, like, anti-control stuff like Caverns and Ballast Worms, which nobody's playing Ballast Worm. I don't know why. Y'all gotta start playing it. But, like, if they have that, you can still do other things with your 3 steps ahead, with your counterspell. So, like, it is fundamentally a strong card, and, like I said, probably my favorite counterspell right now. Like just flat out my favorite one. I'll have to think about that. I'm not the biggest counterspell connoisseur, but if I had to guess, I would say 3 steps ahead is definitely in contention for number 1. As far as the list, though, we're coming on to number 2. This card right here, number 2, it was originally number 1. I thought it would be uncontested, the number 1 card on the list, until something else overtook it at the last minute. But number 2, give you another moment to think. Bulbasaur here, probably the closest representation of this. Bulbasaur here is a frog that is blue and green, as is this card that is Dream 2 Entrancer, boys. The card in the Frogs deck. Can either tap down your innocuous creatures like your Clifftop Lookouts that already did their job, came in and rammed for you, or your Pawn Prophets, which came down and drew you a card. And in addition to that, you can bounce after you've tapped down your creatures, you can bounce them back to your hand with your Mist Breath Elders. But none of this that I'm explaining right now is new to y'all. If you played the Frogs deck. If you haven't played the Frogs deck and you want to see the Frogs deck in action, I have a clip of me playing with it on Arena, and I made a paper version deck tech video. But Dream 2 Entrancer is just like the card in Frogs that made me want to build it. And not to mention, you can just tap down your opponent's things too. Like if they have an unstoppable slasher and it's like, oh man, I don't want to get 2 for 1 by that, well, I'll just tap it down. It's just kind of a messed up Magic card when you really think about it. And it doesn't even need to go in Frogs decks. Like I've seen the Simic Fecund Green Shell deck play this as just a card with higher toughness than power, and it's such a powerhouse. Was my number 1 card, but it just barely lost when Duskmourn came out, and we got some new cards that I was not expecting to overtake it. But at number 1, you may have already guessed it. If you haven't, I'll give you approximately 1.5 seconds to get its Overlord of the Hauntwoods. What I said before about playing cards fairly kind of went out the window with Overlord of the Hauntwoods, because like in standard right now, you have Clifftop Lookout, 3-mana card, creature, comes down, ramps you, fair. You have Spring Bloom Elf something, I don't remember the name, this card right here that was in Modern Horizons and is now in standard. You have that can ramp you, but for 3 mana, you can also play Overlord of the Hauntwoods. It will enter as an enchantment and give you a land that is every basic land type, which allows you to cheat shit out like Leyline Binding. And if you have, speaking of Leyline Binding, if you have Up the Beanstalk in play, and you play your Overlord of the Hauntwoods for 3 mana to enter as the enchantment side, it'll still count as casting a 5-mana spell, so you'll draw a card off your Up the Beanstalk, you'll have perfect mana to cast your Leyline Bindings to draw even more cards off your Up the Beanstalk. Like, that's kind of why I love Overlord of the Hauntwoods so much, just because of its synergy with Leyline Binding. I think if Leyline Binding was not in the format now, I wouldn't have given Overlord of the Hauntwoods as much credit as I do, because a lot of the ramp decks I play are mostly green anyway, so having the additional land types isn't very good, and I would rather get lands out of my deck the way Clifftop Lookout and Spring, whatever its name is, does, and Stomper, like those kind of cards that actually ramp cards out of your deck so there's less dead draws. With that in mind, when Duskmourn got spoiled, I wasn't really too keen on the Overlords, especially the Hauntwood, because I figured, okay, I'd rather just Clifftop Lookout and get lands out of my deck. Then I realized the synergy with Leyline Binding, and I was like, alright, well, I'm going full degenerate mode this standard season. Have not looked back, bro. Overlord of the Hauntwood's too cracked of a Magic card. If it weren't for Leyline Binding, this might have not even been on the top 5. Because I just think I would rather play, like I said, those other 3-mana ramp spells. But because we have degenerate synergy like that, it's gone up to number 1, and I can't pretend it isn't, because I'm always ecstatic to see Overlord in my hand. You know, Dream Do is great. Tallying down opponent stuff is great. Drawing cards is great. But ramping for 3 mana and perfecting your mana and allowing you to cast Leyline Bindings in your mono green deck that you're splashing Leyline Bindings strictly because you have Overlord of the Hauntwoods is what I've been doing. And it's not let me down because it's such a strong strategy. I think once Leyline Binding leaves standard, I'll cast Overlord of the Hauntwoods aside and probably just rely on Clifftop Lookouts and Spring Bloom, whatever. But if you go back to like Pioneer, like I said, the Enigmatic Fires deck is just popping off with the Overlords and stuff. So there'll always be a home for this, unless something happens and cards get banned, which might be for the best because that strategy is not even okay. But I think I've rambled long enough. I've been recording for 50 minutes, so hopefully I've been able to condense this down. Oh my lord. If you stuck around with me throughout the whole video, thank you. I will hopefully be getting more Magic videos out. Like I said, I've been kind of burnt out with Magic just because of circumstances lately, but I don't think I'll ever really truly quit. So expect more Magic content and more dank content in general. That's all for this video anyway, so I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for watching, and have a good day, guys.